welcome back to my channel, or if you're new around here, welcome to my channel. My name is Harriet. It is nice to meet you. Today's video is going to be about the books that I read in the previous month. Now, as you can see, there is no book video for April, and that is because I did film it, but I didn't really like it, so I decided not to upload it. So I'm combining April and May's videos for the books that I read. To be honest, I didn't really read that much across those 2 months anyway, so filming 2 different videos for April and May didn't seem that feasible to me anyway, so that's why you've got the 2 videos in one. And yeah, like I just said, I didn't read that much across the 2 months, and that is because I started a new job in April, so I was getting used to that pattern of work and getting used to being up early. Another thing that I want to mention is I will probably be talking about books that my mum gave to me to read a lot through the next couple of videos, and that is because she gave me a huge stack of books to read a couple of months ago, and I'm running out of shelf space on my bookshelves because the lower shelves I'm using for DVDs, so I don't have a lot more room on my shelves for books. So I'm going to be alternating between reading my books and my mum's books to save on shelf space, because the less books of mine that I read, the less likely I am to buy books to replace the books that I've already read. That leads nicely into the first book that I read in the month of April, which was this book, which is a book that my mum did give to me, which is When Life Gives You Lemons by Fiona Gibson. I've not read this author before. I feel like she definitely has a very niche style, genre, type of book that she likes to write about, which is usually about a woman who's going through some sort of life crisis of a certain age. You know, she's either got marriage problems, or, you know, she's got, I don't know, job problems, or she's just not really enjoying her life right now and she wants to try and do something about it, which is what this book is about. And I feel like I can't really relate to a lot of that just because I haven't gone through a lot of those life things that people have crises over in books. But yeah, this woman in particular in this book, what is her name? Viv. She is in her 50s. She's just started going through the menopause. She has one grown-up son and then a daughter that came along a little bit later on in life as a surprise. She was only, I think, 7 at this point in the book. She's got some marriage problems and she's not really enjoying her job, so she decides to do something about it, hence the title When Life Gives You Lemons. I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw the cover and it says, instead of When Life Gives You Lemons you make lemonade, it says you just add gin and tonic, and then on the side it has a bottle of gin and tonic and lemons, which I thought meant that the book was going to be about her starting her own gin company, which it is not. She does various other things which, you know, it inspires me to try and make something of my life, because sometimes I do feel like I'm a bit stuck in a rut like this lady is. But other than that, yeah, I found it quite hard to relate to, just because I'm not a woman of a certain age in my life, in, you know, middle-aged, I guess you would call it, going through a life crisis in my marriage or with my kids or with my job. You know, I'm in my early 20s. Well, actually now I'm going towards my mid-20s. That's quite scary. I'm not able to relate to this book as much as I would like. I did enjoy it still, but I think it's definitely more of my mum's kind of book, just because I think she can relate to the things in the book a lot more. She does also like this author, and like I said, I feel like this author definitely has a niche style that she writes about that I'm not really feeling. Although saying that, I know my mum has given me another book of hers to read, so we'll see how I fare with that one. And the second book, and the last book that I read in April, was a book I've already read before, which is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I read it when I was in school, when I did AS English Literature. I did A-level English Literature, and we did The Great Gatsby in year 12. That was our book that we were doing that term, that we were studying. We were writing an essay about it, and yeah, I really loved it at the time, and it just gives me a lot of memories that I have from reading it back then. And there's a lot of parts of the book that I'd be like, oh, I remember this section, or oh, I remember that quote, or oh, I remember like studying that part for when I was doing my essay and everything like that. But I really love this book. I think it's a really good book. If you're not really into classics, I would say this is maybe a good one to start with, just because it is, well, this version of the book anyway is very thin. It's only got 9 chapters, and one of those chapters in particular just lists the amount of people, which is probably like 3 to 4 paragraphs worth of people that went to Gatsby's party that summer. So make of that what you will. But yeah, if you don't know what this book is about, it's about a guy, Nick Carraway. He moves into a neighborhood in, I think it's called East Egg. I think that's the neighborhood they live in New York, and it's the sort of new money side of New York, and he moves next door to this guy who owns this huge lavish house, and he throws these very extravagant parties all the time. But he's a bit of an enigma. People don't really know who he is, and there's a lot of rumours of various different things going around about him, and Nick tries to get to know him as his neighbour, and he becomes quite a good friend to him. And we find out that Nick's cousin, who lives across from them in, I think it's West Egg, I could be getting these wrong, I'm very sorry, which is the sort of old money, rich, extravagant lifestyle type people who look down on the people who made their money through various other ways that weren't passed down through family. And she is now married to one of those people and lives across the dock of the water from Gatsby, and we find out that Gatsby and Daisy actually knew each other 5 years previously to this book being set, and he's in love with her, and she was in love with him at one point. And he waited for her this whole time until he was ready and had money to be able to provide for her, but obviously she's moved on at this point in time. So it's just about that part of the story and various other things that go on, lots of different plot twists. If you don't really want to read the book because those kind of books aren't really your thing, there is a film which I did watch at the time when I was studying it back in year 12, so that's quite fun. I remember going to see that with my English literature class, and yeah, I really like this book, and I love the 1920s anyway, and that time period in America. I studied it also in when I did American history for my GCSE history at one point, and I loved it. So this is a really, like, it really appeals to me as a book anyway. Let's move on to the books that I read in May. Again, like I said, haven't read that many, but we are going to start with another of my month books because I'm alternating, and that is a book called Maybe One Day by Debbie Johnson. And let me tell you, this book made me cry. I couldn't process my feelings after reading this book. I was just very overwhelmed by emotions after reading it. I don't cry that often at books, which is very rare for me because I cry at everything. I'm a very emotional person and I'm a very empathetic person. I get very upset for other people a lot of the time. So if somebody's in some sort of distress, or they're very happy, or they're just feeling some kind of way, I usually cry for them. Happy tears, sad tears. But in general, books don't make me cry. I don't really know why. But this one, it happened. I cried at this book. It's basically about a woman called Jess who, when we meet her, she's just attended her mother's funeral, and they decide after the funeral to go back to the house that she used to live in with her mum. Her mum was going through medical issues towards the end of her life, so she was sort of part-time carer for her while she was also working in a school. And yeah, they decide to look through some boxes after the funeral in the attic where she was never really allowed to go to. So she ventures up there to see what's up there, and she discovers a box full of letters and postcards and cards from her former lover Joe, who she thought walked out of her life years ago. But it turns out that for a very long time, after a certain period of their time together, it was a very rough time when they were first together. They had a child and something happened that was quite devastating. You can read about it towards the start of the book. I'm not going to talk to you about what happened there. And yeah, she was in a bad way. She went into hospital for it because she was really struggling, and her parents told her that Joe didn't love her anymore and that he didn't want to be part of her life, which was really sad because they both still had so much love for each other, and she's only just discovering this, I think, 10 years down the line, that he never actually stopped loving her and that he still fought for her many years after they had stopped being in contact with each other. So she decides to go on a scavenger hunt of sorts, I guess, to try and pick up pieces of the life that she led without him and find him through that way of the letters that he wrote to her and the stamps that it would have on the top after the postage stamp was there, saying where he was at certain points in time. And she met lots of people through going on this little scavenger hunt trail, trying to find him and the people's lives that he touched and friends that he made along the way and stories that she learned about him through. And it's just a really sweet book, and the ending is just so beautiful. I'm not going to tell you what happens. I was really worried at one point during the ending that something was going to go one way and not the other way, but yeah, it made me cry, so make of that what you will. Yeah, I really like this book. It just made me feel all the feels. But if you're looking for a real feel-good book, I would definitely recommend this one. I've not read anything of Debbie Johnson's before, but I probably will now because I really liked her style of writing and the way that she makes her characters come to life. Yeah, I think this would also work really well as a film. I feel like when I was reading it, I was visualising it as like a rom-com. It kind of reminded me of, like, I don't know, a Rachel McAdams film. And the last book that I read in May, I only read 2 again, I'm really bad at reading at the moment. I had high hopes for this year and then life got in the way, but that's just how things are sometimes. But the book I read was The Princess Diarist by Carrie Fisher. I've had this on my bookshelf for a really long time. If you didn't know this about me, I love Star Wars. I've been watching it since I was a kid with my dad, and Carrie is just the most incredible human, and I'm so sad that she's no longer with us. But she wrote this book about the time that she was filming the first Star Wars movie, which I love behind the scenes stuff anyway, so getting to see it from a first-hand point of view, what it was like to film those movies, was pretty awesome. She goes through her time when she was a child, because obviously her mother is Debbie Reynolds, who was also a very famous actress, so she recounts sort of the time pre her deciding what her career was going to be and growing up around a very famous mother and that sort of period of her life, and then accidentally falling into stardom and making movies herself, and then getting cast in Star Wars and what that was like for her. And then she goes through a very big part of her life. She goes through talking about an affair that she had, and she's talking about that quite a lot in this book. She also discusses, yeah, how that went down and what that was like, keeping that from everyone because nobody knew about it until I guess this book came out. And also it has like extracts of poems and things like that, and like diary entries from when she was filming and the things that she would write down about, I don't know, how she was feeling about Harrison or just filming at the time and things like that. So I thought that was a really cool point of view to read. I would have liked even more behind the scenes stuff that wasn't just focusing on that affair, but I suppose that was a really big part of filming those movies for her. I would have liked to have seen maybe what it was like filming the rest of the movies, but other than that, I just really like this book. I really felt her character and her presence when I was reading this book. She's got a very, very particular sense of humour and character, and you will fall in love with her even more after reading this, I think, because it's just her voice is very prominent in this book, and I really liked it. So that was The Princess Diarist, and that was the last book that I read in the month of May, and the books that I read across April and May. So yeah, that's all I have to talk about today. I'm hoping I will be better at reading the rest of the year. If not, it's fine. I'll still make these videos anyway because I enjoy talking about books that I like reading. And I hope you guys do too. If you don't, that's fine. You can watch the next video. But I hope you do stick around and that you also like this video. Maybe if you did, you can give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to also subscribe to my channel. I would really love if you could do that, and I will see you next time in another video. Goodbye.